Hello, all you vile white men and is and phobes. I'm Dana Schwartz, and I am here to lecture to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, is and foes, welcome to the Culture Casino!
Culturally, as fans, we have been chastised and proselytized to by this new band of agenda-driven writers, the current crop of writers that are writing for all of our formerly beloved properties. Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, DC, MCU, any and everything that we have called pop culture and have loved and been fans of for decades and decades. Companies are going out of their way to hire these ideologues without knowing or caring about the damage that they're doing to their earnings and to the very stories that they're writing that were built by these fans. The content makers are openly ridiculing the fan bases of all forms of media, believing that they won't be held accountable for their hate. So in an effort to fight against this hatred, misinformation, bigotry, and misandry, I will occasionally examine one of the perpetrators here on my channel. To that end, I present for your disapproval, Dana Schwartz. Dana is not a nice person. She hates white people, white men especially. She sees the world around her in a very crass and myopic way. Why do I say this? Well, she's said as much. She's supported it with her actions, and she wrote a book about it that was presented as satire. She flew underneath fan radar despite her swipes at men through various media sources and outlets. And to top it off, she's a writer on She-Hulk. That was, of course, before she threw herself into the ring and onto the tracks of an oncoming train known as the Fandom Menace. In her words from a February 18th tweet,
I tweeted a pretty mild opinion about a TV show on my personal Twitter account like a week ago, and I've been getting multiple death threats every day since. Like, LOL, is there something that women are allowed to have an opinion on?
a pretty mild opinion. As a writer, she knows that words mean things. Her inflammatory statements were made using very specific language. For the record, here is the original tweet on February 13th of 2020.
In retrospect, it seems impossible to overstate the cultural damage done by South Park, the show that portrayed earnestness as the only sin and taught that mockery is the ultimate inoculation against criticism.
She went further to throw her SJW curse words at both Matt and Trey, the creators of South Park. She called them white and rich. Mild opinion indeed. Now, in today's society, we require receipts, pictures, or it didn't happen, Dana. Why are there not arrests related to these so-called death threats? Is calling your inflammatory statement into question and criticizing your opinion a death threat? Also, trotting out a hot take and then claiming victimhood is so 2015. We are so numb to this tactic, then it's clear we see it for what it is. Our friends over at Bounding Into Comics did a very complete story on Dana's history of hateful statements and propaganda. I'll leave the link below, as John F. Trent deserves all the support of everyone interested in pop culture, especially the pop culture that we have to suffer through today. So let's go through a few of her outright offensive takes over her brief years of public life.
A man at work gave me a chocolate croissant this morning. and that is the only interaction with men I will allow from now on. We need to kill Western canon.
The best one on the same day.
You know what? Screw it. No novels by white men in high schools for the next 20 years.
The racial bigotry and misandry here is on display in her own words. She goes on to admit to parroting others in her string of victimhood tweets with this statement.
The craziest part is, it wasn't even a particularly novel opinion. Lindy West wrote about it in her book last year.
I'm glad she cites the person that she borrowed it from. I look forward to investigating that too. Finally, Dana reaches all the way back to 1993, which is 27 years ago, when she was still an infant, pulling up an author's thought on irony, who in turn self-deleted in 2008. Of course, the use of satire and irony in her own book is ignored by her entirely. Am I mistaken, or is that irony in and of itself? Regardless, the thin veil that the excerpt that she cites provides is merely a large, out-of-context musing from the writer that she looks up to. Just prior to the author's passing, he crafted an article questioning the sacrifices made post 9/11 that was actually included in a series of articles compiled by the Atlantic magazine on the idea of America. His thought experiment, expressed in this collection of articles, suffered under the weight of challenges that the forefathers of this country could not have foreseen. It seems that Dana is unable to engage with people who do not agree and is not in the slightest capable of defending her point. John F. Trent of Bounding into Comics arrives at the same conclusion in his article. Much of this inability to accept criticism by many of this generation usually comes from their upbringing and the indoctrination that they received in the classroom, or what they call education nowadays. Everything they participated in was rewarded with an effort score and not a merit score. Sadly, the world that we live in demands results, and those that get results are granted merit and rewarded for it. Look, Dana, if you want to hang on to credibility and intellectual honesty, you're going to need to renounce your platforms, renounce all of your privilege, surrender your wealth and your partner's wealth, and donate it towards the preservation of whatever causes that you believe in. Further, you should be living in a tent producing no carbon emissions, whether it's through your own action or consumption, and subsisting on plants and probably wearing recycled paper clothing. You haven't done that yet, and I doubt that you will. Truly living in woke culture is too hard and requires far too many sacrifices. You live in the very hypocrisy you claim superiority over. Your politically crass narrative has all the weight of a paperclip, as you are unable to live an intellectually honest life. But to be fair, that's okay. I don't care about your credibility. I don't care if you're intellectually honest, but you probably should. Instead of bringing people together under an umbrella of common good and understanding like a fan community usually does, you infiltrated it with segregationist ideas, dividing everyone into little groups and pitting them against each other. But no doubt you deny your role in perpetuating these ideas of racial, gender, and other social division. Your words and your deeds reflecting the same parroting of woke propagandas. Brings us to understand what you represent right now. Aping and maligning your critics as you deny accountability for your actions and statements. That's not a way to make an argument. I actually worry about the proponents of woke cultural poison like Dana. The corporate world exists to please stockholders and board members who oversee the leadership of these companies. Their primary goal is to make profit, which is money. When investors and board members who oversee the leadership of these companies are looking for reasons for financial failings or a downturn in earnings, their analysts will quickly or would have identified the financial drag. They are becoming more aware that 2% of the country that's on Twitter is not the 2% that they should be listening to. It'll be harder to maintain the echo chambers that perpetuate the woke agenda as the financial performance continues to fall short. No one wants to be preached to. No one wants to be lied about, and no one will continue to support it outside of the ever-shrinking woke clergy. With that, I complete my thoughts on another member of the woke cult, and I look forward to covering more uplifting pop culture stories. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like this type of video, please hit the like button for me. Subscribe and hit the bell thingy for notifications so that you know anytime we actually post new material. Check out Bounding Into Comics. As I mentioned, they are chock full of fantastic articles, especially recently. And as usual, I hope you have a great day wherever you are. And remember, at Culture Casino, when the house wins, we all win.